Okay, class, this is your recorded lesson and lecture for Monday, September 28th. In our live session, which is different for different classes, we're going to go over the test results. Now, they should be in the grade book by now, but we are going to go over the test trends. No one will see anybody's test score with a name identified to it, but you will see, for example, each class period, how many A, B, C's, D's, F's that they had. And I do that, well, one, nobody's identified with it, so it shouldn't embarrass anybody. But it gives you an idea. Sometimes you can take a test and you can say, oh, everybody trashed that test. And boy, sometimes you find out everybody did. And then you can go, well, maybe Penrose taught it poorly. Then sometimes you could see most people got it. And then you could say, okay, I've got to step up my game. I've got to do a little bit better here. And so that's why I show that, and I show some trends. And sometimes you notice things like certain class periods, maybe have a tougher time. That could be things like maybe we had one less class because there's a pep rally or something like that. But the moral of the story is, on our live session, I'm going to do what I do at the end of every unit and the start of the next unit, and that is review the test results. Now, if you missed it, you must reach out to me and set up a makeup time where I will get you a different version of that test. In the meantime, it is a 0 out of 30. So make sure you set that up with me, and we will get you set up. And then if we're reviewing them, obviously you're going to be put out in the lobby while we're reviewing any specifics, just in case one version of a test has a similar question as another version. Okay, so we are starting the next unit. And Unit 2 is a big unit. This is a tougher unit. Unit 1 was just sort of a skill review, and there were a few terms, just sort of basics to get us started. And Unit 2 is also a review exam. It's our last review unit. It's our last unit that won't just go in chronological order, but this one's a lot tougher because it has fundamental documents on it. We're talking about the Declaration of Independence, the Northwest Ordinance, the Constitution. I mean, just really, really important fundamental things that you need to know about as a foundation before we go and talk about the rest of history. It's also one of my favorite to teach because the Constitution is, there's just nothing more relevant that I could teach you than the Constitution. So there should be really interesting stuff here, but the demands on you will be greater. This is going to be a much more traditional chapter, a much tougher chapter. There will be pages and pages of notes. Now we're going to take our time taking them, but you must take these notes as we go along, or you're going to be greatly unprepared for the unit test when that comes up. Now that unit test may take place just like Unit 1, or by the time the Unit 2 test come around, we could be in a hybrid or live teaching situation. So you don't want to fall behind on this one. Okay, so let's take a peek at our words from Unit 2. Now, if you remember me starting the first unit, I told you that what we're doing when we do the terms, front load the terms for a particular unit, is we're trying to see an idea of, hey, do you know these words? And then two, if you don't, you have an idea of what you'll need to study later on. So in other words, first off, write Unit 2. You could skip all of this. This is just my explanation to you. But I want you to write down these terms as we go over them, like the Declaration of Independence. But I do not care if you know these words today. That's fine. They pay me good money to teach you these words. What you should care greatly about is whether or not you know these words in 2 or 3 weeks. Because when we have a test in roughly 3 weeks, you're going to have to know these. So this is a great page of notes to go back to and go, do I know these things? Because that's what's going to be on the test. It's no great surprise. Okay, so this is the first thing we're going to take notes on starting tomorrow, the Declaration of Independence. Do you know what that is? Northwest Ordinance. Now, my hunch and my experience tells me that more of you have a better idea about the Declaration than the Northwest Ordinance. You might have heard about both, but a lot of people just seem to have completely forgotten what the Northwest Ordinance does. Hey, by the way, the beauty of this being recorded is that if I'm moving too fast, of course, you can just pause and catch up. Articles of Confederation. I know that our 9th grade teachers teach this well, but have you remembered what it was and why it's so important? It's really important because it's so bad. This form of government was done so poorly that it really made us make the next version so much better, the Constitution. Of course, the Constitution itself. You should have some familiarity with this. This is a document that is is greater than any person. That's the whole idea. Our founding fathers were far from perfect. But the document they set up was greater than them, greater than us today. It aspires for how good we can be, not necessarily how good we are. We will spend the majority of our time on the Constitution. The Constitution is the bulk of this chapter test. I would say it's probably 80% of the test. Even though we're covering several documents, this is the big one. The Constitution lays out 3 branches of government. One of them is the executive. Hopefully, again, you know what that is. If you don't, that's fine, as long as you know it by the end of the unit. Of course, the legislative branch and the judicial branch. So those are your 3 branches of government. You probably already know what those 3 branches of government are responsible for, although a lot of people confuse them. By the end of the unit, you better know what each one of these branches of government is responsible for. Heck, some of the people in these branches of government seem to confuse this. Everybody seems to think they can make laws when only the legislative branch can actually make laws. Federalist. Think you cover this in 9th grade. This becomes pretty important on the air. They really want to emphasize who the Federalists were. Now, this is pretty easy. Even if you don't know what a Federalist is, I bet you can figure out what an Anti-Federalist is. They're against the Federalist. You can put anti in front of anything. You can put it in front of your own name. If your name's Bob and I say I'm anti-Bob, well, then I'm against Bob's. I mean, it's a pretty simple word. But we're going to have to know for the test what the Federalists believe in and what the Anti-Federalists believe in. And ironically, the Anti-Federalists who didn't like the Constitution had a huge impact on the Constitution because the Federalists said, okay, those are fair criticisms, let's fix it. And so many of their quote-unquote fixes have made their way into the Constitution. The Federalist Papers. Don't know if you've heard of those. I bet you can guess who wrote them. Federalist. And we're going to make sure you know, especially in honors, specifically which ones, who wrote what. Bill of Rights. A lot of people get confused about what your Bill of Rights is. That's actually within the Constitution. There are 27 amendments to the Constitution, which we'll get into every single one of them. The Bill of Rights are just the first 10. The only reason they have a separate name is because those 10 were passed at the same time as a way to please the Anti-Federalists, because one of their complaints was, why aren't our rights listed? So those are your terms for this chapter. Have those written down. Take the time to put those on a piece of paper and write those down. This next test is going to be devastatingly difficult without good notes. And again, if we're live in person, those notes are how you remember things and how you kept track of things, but you'll be taking this test without the benefit of those notes. Now, if we're doing this online, it's a pretty good chance that I can't stop you from using those notes. But boy, this test is going to be incredibly hard if you just don't have notes either way. You're putting yourself in a bad spot. Okay. The other thing to focus on for today is your document of the week. So every Monday, sometimes on Fridays when we're live in class, but online, every Monday you're going to get assigned a new document of the week, obviously. And you can do that any day of the week up until the start of your class on Friday. This week's document of the week has excerpts from the Declaration of Independence. I'm going to go ahead and show you again how to turn that in. Now, here's what I would say. If you've been turning in and right and you look back at your grades at document of the week 1, 2, and 3, and you've got good grades in all those, hey, thanks everybody. Go off and do your document of the week and have a great day. If, however, you have done something where you haven't turned it in right or you've gotten a score that's, say, less than 9, you want to stay tuned in because I'm going to walk through it again, okay? So here we go. Again, for those of you who are crushing this, we're all set. For those of you who maybe need a refresher on how to turn in a document of the week, we're going to go ahead and go over that. So this is it, though, for this chapter for now. Tomorrow we'll start the notes in this unit. All right. I'm in my student account. So this is my fake student account. And you know that every day I post a daily lesson, and this is where all the teaching takes place. So I'm recording this on Friday, it's Thursday, but I'm recording this, but I know that it's going to say something like lesson for Monday, September 28th, and it's going to say watch the daily video. I don't have that posted here because I'm doing it right now. And then it'll say get your document of the week done, and it'll be listed there. Now, it also gets posted here because it's also in your classwork. So it's all the same thing. But what I would do is I first read them just by looking at it in the stream. And I go, okay, let me read this thing. And you can take notes on it. You don't have to take notes on it. And I read this thing. Now, this is what you must write your document of the week on this week. So it's not a newspaper this week. A newspaper is just something that happens sometimes. We're going back to what we originally started with. You know, the last regular one you had was Janelle Collette analysis. This one is excerpts from the Declaration of Independence. And so you're just reading some of the more famous quotes from that. You're not reading the whole thing. That's what excerpts mean. You're reading some of the famous quotes from that. Okay? Now, whenever I hand you a document, okay, that is a whole different thing. That means there's certain challenges affiliated with that. All right. Now, I've read it. I'm going to close out of that. When you're ready to write it, when you're ready to turn in the assignment, to do the work, you go to classwork, and you click on Document of the Week 4 here, okay? And you click on View Assignment. Now, when you view that assignment, okay, you've already read it. Now, if you click on it here, you can read it again. That's fine. But you have to do this step. You see, with over 100 students, if you just share the document, it's almost impossible for me to find. It's something that all of us teachers have, at least in the social studies department, have agreed. It just becomes impossible to find. But if you do it here, I can't miss it. You click Add or Create. Oh, what do you want to add or create? You're going to create a Google Doc affiliated with this document. Okay? Now, you'll have to read that document. You can open it up on another screen and read it. But now, this is going to be affiliated with, boom, Mr. Penrose, Document of the Week number 4. It's just going to be there. So the first thing you're going to do is put your name. Okay? Don't write your name. Write your name, if that makes sense. Bob Smith, whatever your name is, you're going to write that there. I think I told you on the right-hand side, listen, I'm not even going to get picky about if it's on the right or the left. I just need your name there. Even though it's going to be filed under your name, I want you to type your name out. It's a good habit to have. Then you're going to write your source. So the Declaration of Independence. Or you could write excerpts from the Declaration of Independence. That's fine. Either one is fine. I'm getting the idea. You always want to list your source. If you skip that, that's worth 2 points. Your summary. Then you're going to tell me what you read about in your own words. You're not just going to give me the quotes. I've read it. I've read it a whole bunch of times. I need what sort of your summary of it. Now, when you do that, let's say you misspell something. Here we go. Look, I did it, and you misspell something. Google is automatically going to underline it. Some of you are just leaving those words underlined. It's telling you it's underlined because it's making a mistake. And then you right-click on it, and it said, did you mean misspell? Why, I did. And I correct it. If you don't correct it, then I'm going to mark it wrong. And half the time I'm catching you guys, not because I'm a great speller, but because you've left it unchecked where it's underlined. Good grief, people. If you're getting that sort of thing, do a little proofreading. Correct the things that are correctable on your work. So anyway, you do 3 full sentences here. Okay? You end up writing 3 full sentences. Unless you're honors, then it's 5. When you're done with those 3 full sentences of summary, and they have to be, capitalized at the first letter, period at the end of it, or exclamation point, whatever is appropriate, then you're going to do your opinion. This is, again, 3 sentences. You're going to tell me, what do you think about this particular topic? What do you think about the Declaration of Independence? And as long as you have capital letters and spell things right, I'm not going to mark your opinion wrong. Again, as long as it expresses some sort of logical opinion. I don't have to agree with it. That's not the point of this. The point of it is learning how to write a little bit more. And then finally, your challenge. Now, it'll be written in the directions again, but it'll get easier and easier for you this year. Whenever you have a newspaper like you did last week, your challenge is going to be, is it reliable? Why or why not? That's not what this is. This is a document. I'm giving you a document. So your challenge is it primary or secondary? Really? And why? That's it. Is it primary or secondary, and why? So when you did the Janelle Collette analysis, you said, oh, this is a secondary document. It's secondary because it's not original to that time period. So If you believe the Declaration of Independence or excerpts from the Declaration of Independence are actual ones from the actual Declaration of Independence, the exact words, then you'd say, this is a primary document. These are the actual words from 1776. If you think this sounds like an essay about the Declaration of Independence, then you would say this is secondary, is written way after. That's what your challenge is. It's going to be like this every time. Every time I give you a document, the challenge is primary, secondary, and why. Every time I tell you, hey, go out and find an interesting news story, it'll be, is it reliable, why or why not? But this week, because I'm giving you the document, the Declaration of Independence, the challenge is primary, secondary, and why. These are not tough, I promise. Now, when you're done, you turn it in. Now, that one wasn't done, by the way. I just was typing up a few examples. And then it's going to say, are you sure you want to attach this attachment to be submitted with Document of the Week 4? Yes. And then, by the end of the week, I'm going to go to Document of the Week 4, and I'm going to read all the attachments. If you don't have the attachment, it's a 0. So you've got to make sure you do it. The smartest thing to do, ladies and gentlemen, is to go ahead and do that Document of the Week right now. Just because you have until Friday doesn't mean you shouldn't worry about it until Friday morning. That's a crazy way to go about things in life. Go ahead and get it done early because this lecture wasn't particularly long. The rest of this week, we're going to have more notes, more, probably longer lectures. So today is not a bad day to just get this thing and get it knocked out of the way and be done with it. These are easy points. Again, when we explain to parents, oh, how long do they have to do the Document of the Week? Oh, they have all week. That's very controllable by you. If you're not a good test taker, sometimes it's because you're not prepared, but sometimes it's because maybe you get real nervous or you have a hard time remembering some things. I get it. But boy, if you just can't do work that's scheduled for you to do every single week, that's not a great thing because most careers, most jobs that you could potentially dream up, most of them have things you have to have deadlines. You have deadlines for and you have to get things done. So get that done and get that out of the way. And I will see you in your live sessions as scheduled. Have a great day.